Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. I am talking with master podcastress, um, author, creator, and someone who's also, I now know, has worked in the world of film. So I'm curious about
Yes.
this as well. And this is creator Laurie Calcaterra. Laurie, thank you for
Hi.
joining. Yeah, hi.
Yes. Thank you for having me on. It was wonderful to meet you the other night on Tim's podcast, and this was just such a pleasant surprise to sneak in here and get a recording in, but while things are hot for
Yeah,
Path of the Pale Rider.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Had a great time on that podcast. I think that might have been my first panel podcast. I'm not sure.
Really?
It might have been at least one that I wasn't moderating.
Yeah.
So that was fun to do. That was fun to do, to be on that side of it, and to get to hear about Path of the Pale Rider and the creating that you've done. And you and I talked about our love of the origin question.
Yes.
Yeah,
Love that. And that's the first thing I ask on both of the podcasts that I host is what's your origin story? Like, I want to
yeah.
know how everybody, came to be here at this moment. It's so interesting because it's so different for everybody.
hmm
So,
hmm Yeah.
you
So
want to
now
hear
that
my origin story?
I do. And the backstory for me is that I'm an English teacher, I'm a literacy person. And so
Yes.
my daily life is about connecting readers. So I always like to hear about what connects people in terms of storytelling and
Yeah.
then just the creative pathways between film and comics and podcasting and the things that you do.
Yeah, it was an interesting journey for me. It actually started with martial arts. I'm a martial arts practitioner. I've been studying Indonesian and Filipino martial arts since 1997. I'm currently studying Kali Illustrissimo, which nobody has heard of, and it's an amazing art, um, which also has a wild story, which we can talk about another time.
We
Because
can
I
have
can
a martial arts centered episode
Yes,
even.
because I could nerd out about martial arts for just as long as I can nerd out about comics, and that's saying something.
That's cool. That's
So,
cool.
yeah, in 2017, I got involved with a production company in Detroit called Coattail Collective. And what I was doing is I was organizing a fight team. So we were choreographing fight scenes, we were providing stunt people, we were teaching their talent how to fall down, how to do the moves as the best of their ability. And we were just coordinating all of those moving parts because I knew so many people at that point. If they wanted someone to do like knife fight, we had somebody. Do you want jujitsu? We have somebody. Do you want Krav Maga, gun disarms? We have somebody. So we had this just big roster of people that wanted to participate in production. So we would just, coordinate that. So we did a short film, which I wrote called Catfishing. And the
hmm
whole purpose of this short film was just to showcase a few members of the team and like the martial arts skills that we can do. So I did a wall run in a stairwell. We had a gun disarm. We had extended knife fight. I ran someone over with a car. You know what I mean?
hmm
It's
hmm
no plot. There was very little meat and potato. And we're not actors, okay? So when you watch it, it's cringe acting for sure. But the fights are kick ass. So but that's where I started. And then the production company was like, what are you trying to say with this? And I'm like, I want to try to say nothing. And they're like, well, you should write something that says something. You know what I mean? And
hmm
they were like,
hmm
we'd like to see you maybe write some short form web content for us. And so I did. I wrote this series called The Agency, which was very much action, espionage, twists, a lot, spy versus spy kind of feeling to it.
hmm
And I
hmm
wrote 2 seasons of 6 episodes each. And we had actually started to film it. We got into the pilot. Um, and when we were in production and like right before we were doing reshoots, my family relocated from Michigan to Texas. So
hmm
everything stopped, right? And the production company kind of did their own thing. I think they're still around. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing because we've kind of lost contact. But I got the writing, uh, I got the bug
hmm
right then.
hmm
And that's when I was like, I can do this and I can make entertaining stories that, people want to read. So I wrote Path of the Pale Rider, but I wrote it as Dead West, and it's a full-length movie. So
Oh, yeah,
it's written
nice.
as yeah, it's written as screenplay. So exterior, daytime, this is the characters, and then you have dialogue, and then you have some exposition, but it's basically telling the camera where it needs to go from what angle, etc.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so when I wrote it, I didn't know what to do with it. Um, the few people I let read it from the production company were like, this is big. You should pitch it to Netflix. And every time I let people read parts of it, that's the response I get. Netflix. Netflix is the home for you. Netflix would like this. Not even people in the business. Like I've talked to other people at later dates, and they're like, Netflix would be the home for this.
Hmm. Hmm.
However, when I research Netflix and pitching to Netflix, it's a lot more difficult than people maybe are aware. You have to have a specific literary agent that works with Netflix,
Oh,
and then
wow.
they get like 800 pitches a day. What about my story is different than those other 800 scripts that so I was like, one, I probably have a very low shot. And then you find out that Netflix, they take all the rights. You sign it
Mm-hmm.
all over, right?
Hmm.
So they sign you a check. They can rewrite the whole thing. They can cast whoever they want to. They could shelve it if they want
Wow.
to.
Yeah.
And no one would ever see it ever. It wouldn't get the light of day. So, of course, I'm not willing to do that. This is my baby. I'm very much involved in this story. So I was like, well, what else can we do with this? And my husband read it and he was like, this is a comic book
Mm.
because we were more into like Image Comics, Robert Kirkman, Walking Dead, um, anything that's on Image, we've probably touched at one point or another. So, and he's DC Comics when he was young, so a lot of Batman. So when he
Yeah.
saw it, he immediately thought comic book, and I was like, well, okay, how do we do that? So that was 2019, and then I pulled the plug 2020, and I was like, let's do it. So I went looking for artists. um, I found one who was going to tackle it, and then he was having some issues because guess what? That was January 2020, and
Yeah.
here we are walking into the pandemic. So I brought in a second artist to help, and so we had maybe like 8 pages of that started when the first artist dropped the project. Like so many things went wrong. And I was like, maybe we're cursed. Like a tree fell on someone's house. Like they all got COVID. There was a shooting in it, and the roof collapsed in one of their house. Like these two guys had nothing but bad luck while we were trying to
Wow.
produce this comic. And so I canned it. And I was just like, we're all gonna stop. We're all gonna still be friends because I'm not burning any bridges, but obviously this isn't the time or the place for this. And I took a year off. I was like, if it's meant to be, I'll find an artist that works, that's in a style that I like, that, wants to tackle this giant project. And I met
Mm-hmm.
Marco DeFio via social media January of 2022. And
Gotcha.
that's when we
Gotcha.
started rolling. Right. So we kickstarted our first issue in March of 2022. And looking back, I didn't really know much about the community at that point. I ran my first Kickstarter ever with a goal of 4,550. And if anybody has ever done a Kickstarter, a first issue, that's insane. Usually, first issues, you're running your Kickstarter for like 500, 800, maybe $1,000, 1,200 max. 4,550 because Laurie had no clue what she was doing. And we ended up making more than $5,000 on
Wow.
this
Wow.
campaign. And that's when I knew I had tapped into something. Because
Hmm.
when I got into the community and they were like, you did what? And I was like, yeah, that's not normal. They're like, that is not normal. That is not normal. And so I was like, okay, so I had something. So that's kind of like my whole journey. And then we've been releasing an issue every 6 months or so. We just did a trade paperback in
Hmm.
February. We kickstarted that, and then it was released in April. And now we're on to issue number 5. So the whole first arc that was that full length movie is broken up into 12 issues. And with every, there's like act one, act two, and act three of a movie.
Hmm.
So each act is 4 issues. So we just finished act one. So people got to learn the world, how it works. all the craziness of how this world is just so devastating that our protagonist, you understand him, his motivations, what he's looking for. And now
Hmm.
we're in the act two where he gets his new mission and then everything goes wrong. So I'm so
Hmm.
excited for these next four issues. My favorite issue is number 7 in this 12 issue block, and we're almost there. So I'm just, that one's going to change everything in the
Awesome.
story. So,
Awesome. Awesome. So what are the ingredients? What are the things that you wanted to make sure to include in Path of the Pale Rider?
so it's a Western.
Hmm.
It's apocalypse. So
Hmm.
we have zombie-ish. We're like zombie adjacent because your body can die, but your soul doesn't leave your body. So it's like you're still you, but you're rotting and your brain is decomposing, which makes you very volatile. So
Sure.
you lose your memories, you could get violent, you could get vegetative. You're just very chaotic. And it's people, animals, insects, fish, nothing dies correctly. We broke death in this story. And
Mm.
when you think about what that does to the world, it's harsh.
Yeah.
We have overpopulation, we have major food crisis because again, if animals you can slaughter the animal, let's say a cow. Cows are giant. How do you butcher an animal that is still moving?
Hmm.
And if you were able to, would that meat still be moving when you ate it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want that hamburger. And people are like, well, we just go vegetaririan. Well, pesticides don't work anymore.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
these bugs, the bugs are not smart. And technically, you don't have to eat once you're undead, but bugs really only do a few major functions, right? Eat
Yeah.
and reproduce. That's about it. And
Yeah.
so, in my mind, bugs would continue to eat, even though they don't need to. So now we have food shortage that way. We also have a water problem because we have undead things, rotting things swimming into places they have no business. Like they should be sinking to the bottom of the water, but they're not. They're getting into freshwater supplies. So major problems that way. We have what does the government do when we have a chaotic population that is, out of control? Well, they try to control it, right?
Hmm.
So then
Hmm.
they start passing laws, curfews. They pass these wearable devices where, when activated, they show whether the wearer has a heartbeat. So it will light up like if the person is living, it's green, and then you see the EKG line, and you hear the audio. So it's multiple layers of letting someone know that this person is alive. Well, if you're
Hmm.
undead and you're wearing one and you tap it, it flatlines, it's red, and it alarms, and it doesn't stop alarming until it gets put on a heartbeat again. So it's a big, hey, come get me,
Hmm.
right? So it's a problem. But again, if you think about our humans, what do we do when we're given technology? We hack it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have undead walking around that have a heart, apparently have a heartbeat, but they really don't. So they're trying to pass as human for longer because then the government makes it illegal for undead to be in a community with living people. And then they disappear you. So, and if you think about that, that's scary. So in my
Hmm.
family, what if one of my kids were dead? You know what I mean? But they're
Hmm.
aware and they come disappear my 7-year-old. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Or me,
Yeah.
what if I'm a single parent and I'm undead and my children are both living and they come get me? Then where do my kids go? So it just creates a whole lot of problems in this world. And our protagonist, Jude St. Clair, is just trying to go through all of this chaos to figure out what happened and to see if he can put it all back together to the way things were. It's a
Wow.
mess.
Yeah. Well, and as you're talking about it, I love the what if question in
Yeah.
storytelling. So, it sounds like so much thought, so much creativity, and just thinking about the implications of like, what if this happens, and then what if this
Mhm.
happens? Do you have an endpoint for the story in mind that you'd like to
I
get to?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. So
Yeah.
there's the 12 from the first arc. There is a second arc and there is a third arc. And then there's the end. The end is in place. I don't like fluff. Um, I like watching TV shows, right? So this is gonna to me having an ending is the difference between experiencing Lost and experiencing Breaking Bad. One
Hmm.
of those endings was clearly much better than the other, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
to me, Breaking Bad had the intention of this is how we end. And that's what Path has, is we have an ending. So every issue that we release is moving us closer to that ending. So it's going to be a little while till we get there, but when we do get there, it'll be fulfilling, and you'll definitely be in your feels, both good and bad, and you've been
Yeah.
through the ringer at this point. I like to torture my readers.
You have to. You have
You
to.
have to.
Yeah. That makes for a good story.
Hmm.
I was going to ask about the process of moving from like screenwriting to comics. Have you found
Yeah.
things that work on the screen that you have to change up for comics? Or,
Yes.
yep. Mhm.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of the action, uh, because you can show fight scenes and you can show like, we have this undead bear named Big James, who's just this big baddie in our world. So like Big James chasing people and just knocking the crap out of things. It's an incredible experience to watch. But when you only have one page to show that, how do you show that excitement, that terror, in 6 panels?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it takes a lot of times we have to go through the script and be like, okay, like here's a fight scene in a saloon, right? What's the big movements that happen? Jude flipping a table, Jude, like putting his hat on someone's face and then punching him through it, stuff like that. Spartan kicking someone into someone else. But then all like the little finesse things that I've written in there, because of course, being a martial artist, I'm like backhand speed and then of course and then block the, and it all goes by the wayside because we don't have the time. We don't have 1,400 panels to show all these little minute movements. So
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's fun because like in the trade paperback, I released two of my scripts. So issue 1 and issue 4. So people, if you're interested in seeing the difference of what's on the page and what I actually wrote, you can see that sometimes in the bonus material because I'll be
Oh,
like, okay,
cool.
so like here's the bear chase, right? Here's what I wrote. And then you get to look at it and be like, oh, I see what they did. Well,
Uh-huh.
oh, look what she wrote here. You know what I mean? So sometimes things are very descriptive in the script, but they just don't make the cut onto the comic book panel. They just can't. We can't put it all.
Yeah. But the collaboration, I'm sure, is kind of that process of talking through what works and what doesn't work and how to change it. So, any particular nods to your collaborators on the series?
This is interesting because we just switched interior artists for issue
Oh,
5.
okay. Hmm.
So Marco DeFio is the pencil and inker for issues 1 through 4. And now I think I'm pretty descriptive in my movie script. And so I never translated that into comic book script. So comic book script is page 1, panel 1, here's what the character is doing, and then the dialogue, right? And then panel 2, panel 3, however many panels are on the page, page 2. Um, Movie script is not that way. And so Marco and I would sit down and go through the movie script, and he would go from there. And we would be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is how many pages should fit like the bear chase. And then this is how many pages you have to talk about like the lead up or like the last page. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
we'd figure
Hmm.
out how many pages need to, and then he would thumbnail and he would fit it in and he would do all that paneling. Um, when we switched to Gilbert, Gilbert is not, he hasn't quite been in the business as long. And so I'm sitting with him and I'm reworking the script into comic book method. So that way he has panel 1, page 1. So it's a challenge for me too, because I'm like, all right, where do we turn the pages? Where, you know what I mean? And issue 5 is a beast. So of all the ones
Yeah.
to do it, I'm just like, well, I'll get really good at it. This great practice because I write these scenes where it's like there's 3 different points of view. Not really point of view. Okay, so we have our protagonist, there's what he's doing, there's what the crowd is doing, and then I have the TV telling you something too. So every time we go forward a panel, we have to pay attention to the position of the crowd, Jude St. Clair hiding in the grocery store, and then what the TV is also telling us. And we're moving all 3 of those forward at the same time, and they're all
Wow.
important things. So Gilbert and I are definitely learning together on this. And there's some give and take where I'm like, hey, I think this, and then he'll start drawing, and then I'll be like, nope, nope, we're gonna pivot and we're gonna do this instead because of how your art looks. It's so great. We're gonna make this the end of the page, and we're gonna put that. So we're still kind of creating as we go for issue
Hmm.
number 5. But I think the more we do it, we'll have a more give and take, and it'll become natural. You know what I mean? So like issue 6, issue 7 we'll be fine. He'll be like, oh, this is what we do. And he'll be like, great. And he'll be off and running.
Cool, cool. Yeah. From what I've heard, there's no easy part of the comics process. It's all
Mm-mm.
involved, but that breaking down process between script and how it happens on the page, I've heard that's one of the harder aspects of the entire process.
I think so, especially taking it from one format into another. I
Hmm.
think that's the challenge of how, because again, and I know from the script, like it's not all going to translate. And so I'm trying to anticipate, like, what are we taking out, or do I have to put stuff in?
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
I'm also the letterer on the comic, so I'm always looking at the dialogue. Because again, in a screenplay, you can have them just talk, but it's like that's not going to fit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
take it all out and reword it. So I'm constantly playing with the dialogue, and that's why I decided I would learn how to letter because I probably changed the dialogue 5, 6, 7 times before it's solidified on the page. And then my editor has a suggestion I change it again.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
was
good.
talking with a creator who said that once he started doing that, once he started lettering his own comics, he couldn't imagine doing it another way. He's the writer and letterer as well.
Yes.
It's your own editing process, it sounds like.
Yeah, because it's kind of like the final edit on the dialogue because
Mm,
you have to see what space your artist left you and communicate your ideas in the space. So sometimes he gives you more space than you need, and it's like, do I fill it? It depends on what's in the background. Is it just shading, or is it something important? Marco
mhm.
used to put like all these funny Easter eggs in the background. Like he put a singing bass on the wall in the saloon in issue 2, and I was like, I gotta put, where am I supposed to panel now? I'm like, I want to cover this thing. It was really funny. So I was always looking in the background, okay, where do I put my bubbles? Because I don't want to block anything that's pertinent. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
kind of
And
have to.
yeah. I've also learned in our recent talk that you are a master at I called it goodies, the sort of, there's a technical term for this in Kickstarter, the incentives, the campaign add-ons. So hot
The
sauce
pledges?
is, there you
Oh, yeah,
go.
yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I was like, the pledges.
I could have totally just gone and found that, but yeah, sorry. So hot sauce is one of those, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's like such a weird story. I love indie because you can do anything your heart desires. And a lot of times I'm listening to my audience and I always try to pull them to get ideas of what they want because, you put a bunch of junk on your campaign and nobody wants it. You know what I mean? It's like, I have buttons and I love buttons, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody has buttons. Let's just be honest,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Buttons, bookmarks, and keychains. Those are, you're going to find that everywhere. So I was like, how do I break that mold and find things that are different, that are exciting, and that people actually want? And
Hmm.
so the hot sauce, a friend of mine named Christopher Brown is also a creator and an outdoorsman. And he makes hot sauce. He's very good in the kitchen and he'll send me I'll send him recipes. And so he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna make a batch of hot sauce for this other group. Um, can I put your undead bear on the label of this one? Because I think it would be really funny." And I was like, "Oh my God, that would be hilarious." Go for it. I'm like, all I ask in return is that you send me 2 bottles. I want one for myself and one for my dad because he loves hot sauce and it would be hilarious, right?
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So he sent me the 2 bottles and I took a picture and I put it on social media like, look, I got a hot sauce with Big James on it. And the fandom erupted. How do I get it? Shut up and take my money. How do I order this? Is it on the next campaign, et cetera, et cetera? And I was like, I didn't anticipate that. I was just like,
Hmm.
look at this cool thing. And they were like, tell us how to get it. So I asked my buddy, I was like, do you want to make hot sauce for my campaigns? And he was like, Laura, you know your way around the kitchen. here's the recipe. Here's where I get my bottles. Here's where I get the labels. So he gave me all the tools and I was like, I'm
Wow.
gonna make hot sauce, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it was issue number, was it two? It was three. Issue three, we did hot sauce for the first time. And I think there was 6 bottles that went out. And I still make it and I take it with me, like book signings and Comic Cons, and it's just, it's been growing in popularity. And then I brought it back for the trade paperback campaign because the backers were like, "We're out. Are you gonna like, how do I get some more of this? Because I can't sell it on my website because FDA rules." Um, so I was like, "Well, I'll bring it back for the trade paperback." So then 12 bottles went out.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Wow.
And
Yeah.
now they're like, "What else? What else can you do?" And I was like, "Well, okay." So I made 2 different flavors of hot sauce. So I have ghost pepper barbecue, I have mango habanero, and I have jalapeno serrano, like a green sauce that's mild. And I was like, I'll make a sampler pack. So I have single bottle and I have sampler pack. And right now there's like 33 bottles that have been
Oh,
spoken for
wow.
on the campaign.
Wow.
So I was like, we still got like 2 weeks left. So I'm gonna be making lots of hot sauce for this month.
Yeah. It's going to be a hot sauce production time.
So it was
Absolutely.
like, don't lie. You started making comic books so you could start your hot sauce empire. And I was like,
That's
oh my
right.
gosh. I was like,
Yeah.
it's just the natural progression of, supply and demand. People want it. I was like, hey, I'll throw it on like, if nobody backed it, I would have been like, cool, man, move on to something else. But that's how that
Mhm.
is there. So we have hot sauce, um we have jigsaw puzzles. We have Funko, custom made Funko Pops. I
Nice.
do secret rewards, which nobody knows what they are when they're backing it. And those are always something that I handcraft. Um, I either 3D print stuff or I woodwork. It's
Wow.
usually a little bit warped because it's
Yeah.
Path of the Pale Rider. You know what I mean? Like I handcrafted a wooden box for people and sent them a glass jar full of ashes and bones. Which they got to name. So they were naming their bones in the survey. And then I made this thing, and then they were all like, "What is this?" Like, it's your bones. It's called the bones of despair. So it's that next level of, oh, this is weird, but it's so cool.
Yeah.
Um, Self candy kind of thing. So yeah.
Like what a branch of creativity. It gives you the chance to think about like different things to make and send and yeah, that's so cool. Very cool.
Yeah. I'm that weird person that can do all the people are always like, all right, Laurie, what don't you do?
Yeah.
Because it's like I
Yeah.
do martial arts, I do the comic, I write, I letter, I make my own stickers, and it's I make all the hot sauce. I just do a lot of stuff. I try to do as much of the merch um as possible. Obviously, it brings my cost down, but it opens up so many doors of creativity. I have a Cricut. I just ordered a t-shirt press, so now I'm gonna be doing that.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
So, I make
Yeah.
the jigsaw puzzles too. So I
Cool.
have a problem. Hi, I'm Laurie Calcaterra, and I have a creativity problem.
Hi, I'm an artisan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, it's
Yeah.
like, is this the support group? Is this an intervention?
Anytime, anytime, by all
Yeah.
means. Absolutely. We can start handing out tokens. It's absolutely
I would lose that token every day. Like, oh, turn it in. It was creative today.
it's okay. Creativity is a good problem to have. It's a good problem to
Yeah,
have.
yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So I'm curious, you were talking about like tapping into the fandom, following what people want, and that's a nice lead in to talk about where you do connect with people and where people can connect with the campaign.
Oh, with the campaign,
Hmm.
it's on Kickstarter right now. And all you have to do is search Path of the Pale Rider, or we have a short link that will take you there. It's just www.pale-rider.com. And
Nice,
what's
nice.
what's really cool about the campaign is not only do you get to see like the books and the art and the previous issues and the cool merch, but um, talking about that creativity vein, we also write riddles and I do fan interactive short films because coming from production, it just seemed natural, right? Then we do
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
commercials and news reports and stuff that are based in the world. Those are all on the campaign as well. And those always come no matter what. Like if that's not a stretch goal that we have to hit in order to unlock the video, it's just something that I do because again, I don't sleep. Um, so if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see that the back covers of every issue are a riddle. I've done things that show up in your mailbox from a character. I've done hidden videos on YouTube. The last one I did, if you solve the riddle, it's a working phone number that you
Hmm.
can call and interact with Path of the Pale Rider like it's real. Um, and we're just going to continue with that. So that section's going to grow, but it's fun that people can go like kick the tires and see, test drive Path of the Pale Rider weirdness, that extra stuff before you start reading the story. So, but if you just want to read the comic, hey, that's great. That's the meat and potatoes. I'm on a
Yeah.
ton of social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X, um, Threads. I'm on
Mm.
Threads. I
Hmm.
also have
Hmm.
a YouTube channel that's Laurie Calcaterra 360. Um, all of my podcasts dump into there, but also the Path of the Pale Rider stuff. And I have another playlist for food. Like it's called Eat Good Food Before You Die, because I think that's funny. Where I make like things that you think maybe you couldn't make, like coffee creamer, and I made cheese the other day. I make my own farmer's cheese. So
Nice.
I make pickles, I make homemade bread, all that stuff. So I have to put more videos in there. I've been neglecting, but so yeah, so I was kind of this Renaissance woman that does all these things. And so if you want to come along for the ride, I for Path of the Pale Rider, I suggest joining the Facebook group called
Hmm.
Path of the Pale Rider. It's a private group. All you got to do is answer one question to get in that stops the bots from getting in. And it's just do you like comic books. But that's like the shenanigans, the art updates, the interaction with myself and the artist team, and they're all in there. And so we play games and um my trade paperback, we had a plushie of Big James here. You can see, I'll show you.
Oh, yeah.
So now
Oh,
the people
nice.
that got these are like taking him on vacation and like putting Big James in the restaurant and taking his. So it's like, where is Big James today? They have fun with that. They think it's hilarious. So stuff like that. Like we just have fun in the group. And so that's where I recommend people go. But you can follow me on any of the socials. I'm pretty active. So mhm.
Cool. I will hop on and join right after our talk. I will do
Yay.
that
Thank
here in the
you.
next few minutes. Yeah, yeah. Well, have we missed anything in the talk through? I always like to, I'll send the questions beforehand and I added a few in. But anything that you want to make sure to share before we close out?
I don't think so. I just want to say thank you to my artist team, of course, Marco DeFio for issues 1 through 4, and then Gilbert Perez, Matt Chambers, and Rachel Bullock, who is my editor, who I can't live without. Um, we're a team. I'm usually the face of the team because I go out and I'm the one that does the marketing, but this doesn't happen with all of them. And I just want to say thank you for supporting indie comics. Indie comics, when we run a campaign like this is how we ensure that we can continue to make top quality, good stories, the new stuff that you're not going to find in Hollywood right now. So
Hmm.
just make sure that you support. A lot of people are like, well, once the book is made, I can buy it off your website, which is true. But the Kickstarter is how we ensure that we can continue to pay our working artists. So please consider going there. Again, there's tons of stuff that you can find. We have digital catch-up tiers if you just want to get started and don't know where to go. We have physical catch-up tiers. You can get the trade paperback there as well. All beautiful variants are there. So just go walk through it and see what works for you. If you have any questions or there's something that you would like that is not on the campaign, um, and if I could put it on there for you, I will. So please, you can always just reach out directly to me and I can make things happen.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much and glad to have you back anytime.
Thank you very much for having me on, and I appreciate this. Thank you, thank you, thank you.